Hey, this is Mika Miles from Anchor and Phoenix Healing Arts, and in this video, I want to talk to you about anger. So, I just want to start off by saying that anger is great. Anger is a beautiful and powerful emotion that gets a very bad reputation because of its power to be abused and misused, but ultimately at its core, anger has a very important job, which is to protect your boundaries. We feel anger when we perceive, whether it's real or imagined, that our boundaries are being threatened. And we can learn to use the energy of anger to protect our boundaries. And I've learned how to do this through my own experimentation, and I originally learned about it in Karla McLaren's book, The Language of Emotions, which I highly recommend if you're interested in learning about all the emotions that we experience and what they're for, and how they should be welcomed and honorably channeled rather than dismissed or, chased. And so anyway, but anger is it serves a very important purpose of protecting our boundaries. And so I thought I would illustrate a few different ways that I'm going to go ahead and I'll explain this later and say that the ideal thing to do with anger is to be able to learn to channel it into your energetic boundary to protect your energy. And then from that place of protectedness and feeling safe, speak your truth and assert yourself in the situation to reassert and make clear your boundaries. That isn't always an option. That's the ideal way, and it's not always an option. But so the other two things that can happen is that you can hold anger in or you can express it out. And while both of those two things can be really damaging if they're your main strategy and the main way you deal with anger, sometimes they're necessary. So I thought I would explain, kind of give it more of a full picture of all these different ways of dealing with anger by talking about different experiences I've had with street harassment. So to talk about what it's like to hold in your anger, I'm thinking of a time when, I was walking by myself in a sort of more late at night in a subway station, and a large group of men started making comments about my body, and I immediately, felt that my boundaries were being violated. I was being objectified, and I felt the emotion of anger, but I didn't feel safe expressing it in that situation. I felt that to let that anger out, I feared that that would endanger my safety. So this was when I only knew the two options of repressing and expressing anger. So I repressed it. I held it in, and I just tried to look small and ignore them so that they would leave me alone. And a lot of times that is going to be the best way to keep yourself safe, unfortunately, is just to going to be able to not speak up for yourself, because sometimes that is going to endanger you. But I think that for that situation, and then unfortunately, the result of which women are frequently taught to do. Women are really taught to hold in our anger and then to avoid expressing it because it will make us a bitch. Right? That's the word for a woman who expresses her anger, is often a bitch. And which is a very gendered word. But the problem with that is that you lose your sense of self. You lose your boundaries. You lose your sense of what is okay for you and what is not okay when you don't allow the energy of anger out, which is supposed to be able to protect your boundaries. And so I'm going to offer a suggestion for harm reduction for that. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you have to hold your anger in and you can't assert your boundaries and assert your truth, see if you can try sending that anger energy into your boundaries. And you don't have to tell anyone you're doing this. It can be something really subtle. You just, when you feel that anger boiling up inside, usually for me it's in my abdomen, you can imagine it's like this red, fiery, hot energy that you just send it, shoot it out, into a bubble that surrounds you. And hopefully that'll, make you feel more safe and secure, and hopefully send some "don't fuck with me" vibes out that hopefully people will pick up on. So that is holding in your anger. So then it's opposite, which is as I said, in our culture, we're only really taught or shown two ways of dealing with anger: repressing it and expressing it. So that's its opposite, expressing your anger. So this is when someone says to me, "Hey, sexy," and I give them the finger and say, "F you." That's expressing my anger. That is a way that I feel that my boundary is being violated. I feel anger, and anger is trying to help me protect my boundaries, and I just yell at someone, "F off. Leave me the f alone. Don't talk to me," right? That's expressing my anger. And again, a lot of times that is going to be the best way to make yourself feel safe and to make yourself feel strong and protect your boundaries. The downside of expressing your anger like that is that it comes at a cost to you. Excuse me. When we express anger energy like that, when we just let it bubble up and straight out our mouths at someone else like that, it comes at a cost to us. It takes up a lot of our energy. And also, at least for me, when I do that, I feel glad that I was able to protect my boundaries, but I also there is a yuckiness that comes with crossing someone else's boundaries, because even if that guy, we can say he deserved it, or that he, I don't regret having stood up for myself, there's still a yuckiness that I feel for having crossed his boundaries. That's just like a natural thing, I think, as humans, for when we cross someone else's boundaries, there's this like a yuckiness. There's like a bit of remorse feeling, like maybe a guilt that you get for having crossed someone else's lines. And so while I still do that sometimes, if someone is saying something disgusting to me, and I am, especially if I'm like tired and I don't have the energy to do the third option, which we'll get to in a second, then I'll do that. And I say to myself, well, at least I protected my boundaries today. So, but of course, a habit of expressing your anger, whenever it comes up, can lead to real feelings of remorse. Like, just expressing your anger like that can lead you to say and do things that you really do regret and that you really wish you hadn't done. And so it can even cause you to physically hurt someone if you just completely let it flow like that as your way of being. So that, as a main way of dealing with anger, can also be unhealthy for you and the people around you in the long run. So, but again, sometimes it's what you got to do. So the third way of dealing with anger that I learned from reading Karla McLaren's book, Language of Emotions, is to channel your anger into your boundaries. And then after so you're not at someone, but into your boundaries. So you use the energy of anger and channel it into your boundaries, like I showed you before. And then once your boundaries that have been violated by this someone are reestablished, then from that place of groundedness and feeling safe and secure in your boundaries, you speak your truth and assert what your boundaries are to the person who's crossed them. So an example of this is, I'm pretty proud of this one because this is something I've been working on. The other day I was going for a run, and a man just turned to me and said, "Hey, gorgeous." And immediately I felt angry because He'd crossed my boundaries. So I, had been just thinking about this, so I was able to stay focused, channel that anger energy that I felt welling up into my boundaries, take a breath. Then I turned to him with my hands on my hips and I said, hi. What did I say? I said, I'm just going for a run and I don't want to think about what I look like to other people. So next time you think something like that, could you just say, would you like a compliment? Or keep it to yourself? And he said, okay, but you're gorgeous. Which is like, okay. So maybe the message got through to him and maybe it didn't. But the point is that I felt really great afterwards. I didn't feel that awful feeling of having not protected my boundaries and kept my anger to myself and just like let that boundary violation sit. I didn't feel disempowered like that. And I didn't have that yucky feeling that comes from just like yelling fuck you as a response of, that yucky feeling of having crossed someone else's lines and wasted my energy on expressing anger. I just felt like really clear and calm because I had just used anger as it's meant to be used in an ideal situation to just protect my boundaries and assert my truth and speak up for myself. And so, yeah, it's really hard. I don't manage to do it every time my boundaries are crossed. I would say that my personal tendency is towards expressing my anger, but it's something that I'm working on, and I've been really excited about this tool that I learned from reading the book, and I wanted to share it all with you. So thanks for listening. I'm going to be ending every one of my videos with a song that's channeled from my spirit guides. So I'm going to channel a song for you now. This is me, that is you. This is where we do not meet. Well, that was that. Thanks for listening.